The crimson emergency lights bathed the Galactic Space Council chambers as Ambassador Veltar of the crystalline hegemony transmitted the impossible data streams. Energy signatures, unlike anything in their databases, pulsed from the primitive Sol system, defying every law of physics the advanced civilizations had established over millennia. The massive council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished quantum steel, its walls lined with breathing biometal that pulsed with alien heartbeats. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their specialized environmental pods, each one a master of technologies that could reshape stars. The ethereal collective floated in their gas-filled spheres, their translucent bodies crackling with pure thought energy. The insectoid Vexithari clicked their mandibles in rhythmic patterns that served as their language, while the towering rock creatures of Petra Prime communicated through seismic vibrations that shook the station. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline body stood 12 feet tall, her faceted form refracting the emergency lights into dancing rainbows across the chamber floor. Her species had mastered quantum manipulation when Earth's sun was still forming, yet the data streaming through her neural interfaces made no sense. The energy readings from human space violated every principle of physics she understood. "These readings cannot be accurate," declared High Counselor Thexara, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into sharp fragments that cut across the assembled delegates. "The humans barely achieved interstellar travel 3 centuries ago. They lack even basic antimatter manipulation." The Saurian delegate Corvex uncoiled his 20-foot serpentine body, his scales shifting from deep emerald to warning red. His species had conquered 17 star systems through sheer military might, their plasma cannons capable of melting continents. The idea that hairless primates from a backwater world could produce energy signatures that confused their senses was insulting. "The mammals discovered fire only moments ago in galactic terms," he hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air for deception. "Their most advanced vessels still use chemical propulsion. This data must be corrupted." But Captain Li Jiwon of the United Earth Space Command stood silently in the observation deck, watching through the transparent aluminum as the galaxy's most powerful species debated humanity's fate. His dark matter-enhanced uniform shifted and flowed like liquid shadow, remaining completely invisible to their sensors, just as his ship's silent storm hung undetected mere kilometers from their station. The uniform felt warm against his skin, alive with energy drawn from the universe's hidden foundation. Through his enhanced vision, Jiwon could see the Council's true defenses. Quantum mines floated in dimensional pockets around the station. Reality-warping shields flickered between states of existence. Weapon platforms the size of cities waited in nearby space, armed with star-killer missiles and black hole generators. Any normal attack would be suicide. The station itself was a marvel of alien engineering. Built inside a hollowed-out moon, it housed not just the council chambers, but entire cities of different species. The methane gardens where the gas-breathing Nebulons lived created aurora displays that danced across the inner atmosphere. Gravity generators maintained dozens of different environmental zones, from the crushing high-pressure depths where the deep ones held court to the zero-gravity crystal gardens of the crystalline hegemony. Jiwon's communicator buzzed softly with reports from other human observers. Lieutenant Kim Do-yun was stationed near the military district, watching Saurian war machines that could crack planets. Commander Nam Jisoo monitored the science sectors where ethereal collective minds worked on experiments that bent space and time. Each human agent remained completely undetected, their dark matter technology making them ghosts in the aliens' sophisticated sensor networks. The Council's sensors screamed warnings as gravitational anomalies appeared throughout the system. Space itself seemed to ripple and bend around invisible masses. The station's AI systems, some of the most advanced in the galaxy, processed terabytes of data every second, but found nothing. The gravitational distortions had no source, no visible cause. It was as if massive objects were moving through space while existing in a different dimension entirely. "Impossible readings detected in sectors 7 through 15, announced the station's synthetic intelligence, its voice a harmony of musical tones that the ethereal collective had designed. gravitational displacement consistent with capital ship movements, but no objects detected on any spectrum. The assembled delegates stirred uneasily. Some species had legends of ghost fleets and phantom armadas, but those were myths from the Dark Ages, before science conquered superstition. The Vexithari began clicking in rapid, agitated patterns. Their compound eyes could see across 17 different spectrums simultaneously, yet they detected nothing but empty space, where their instruments insisted massive objects were moving. Ambassador Corvex of the Saurian Empire slammed his clawed fist on the council table, the impact creating spiderweb cracks in the reinforced surface. His species had survived by trusting their instincts, and every warrior instinct screamed that they were being hunted. Censor ghosts and malfunctions. I will not waste the Empire's time on human trickery. That's when Admiral Park Minji's voice echoed through every speaker in the station simultaneously. Despite no active communication channels, the sound bypassed all security protocols, all encryption systems, all defenses. It came from everywhere and nowhere, carried by forces the Council didn't understand. Honored Council members, humanity requests an audience. The Council chamber fell silent as space itself seemed to ripple outside the massive viewports. Reality. Bent and twisted like water disturbed by an unseen hand. The assembled aliens pressed against their environmental barriers, watching in stunned disbelief as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. Ships materialized from nothingness, not decloaking, like standard stealth technology, but phasing into visible reality, as if stepping through dimensions that shouldn't exist. The human vessels emerged from what appeared to be empty space, their forms solidifying like shadows gaining substance. These weren't the crude chemical-powered rockets the Council expected from humanity's primitive civilization. The lead ship stretched over 15 kilometers in length, dwarfing even the largest Saurian dreadnoughts that had terrorized star systems for centuries. Its hull seemed to absorb light itself, creating a void in space that hurt to look at directly. Smaller escort vessels flanked it, each one larger than the Council's most advanced cruisers, their surfaces rippling with energy patterns that defied classification. The crystalline hegemony's sensors went haywire. High Councillor Thexara's faceted body flickered between transparency and opacity as her neural processors struggled to analyze what they were seeing. The ethereal collective's gas-filled chambers began glowing brighter as their collective consciousness worked frantically to understand this violation of known physics. Admiral Park Minji materialized in the center of the council chamber through what could only be described as controlled teleportation. She was a compact woman in her 40s, her black hair streaked with premature silver, wearing a uniform that seemed to shift between existing and not existing. Her calm demeanor belied the revolutionary technology at her command as she surveyed the panicked aliens with patient eyes. "Esteemed Council," she said, her voice carrying perfectly through the chamber's diverse atmospheric zones, "we come not as supplicants, but as neighbors announcing our presence." The translation system struggled with her words. The concept of humans as neighbors rather than subjects was so foreign to galactic politics that several species' computers crashed trying to process it. The Vexthari began clicking in distressed. Harmonics, while their compound eyes tracked energy patterns they couldn't identify. "Impossible!" Councillor Thexara's voice cracked through her crystalline structure, sending harmonic vibrations that shattered decorative elements around the chamber. "Our scans show nothing. Your ships don't exist in any measurable spectrum." The station's most advanced sensors, designed by 17 different species working together, registered only empty space where massive vessels clearly floated. It was as if humanity had found a way to exist while not existing, to occupy space, without displacing it. Lieutenant Kim Do-hyun stepped forward from seemingly thin air, his own form solidifying as he adjusted his phase variance. His scanner displayed readings that made the alien scientists recoil in confusion and terror. The device showed energy signatures that broke their understanding of reality itself. "We exist in the medium that comprises 85% of your universe, honored ones," he explained with the patience of a teacher addressing children. "What you call empty space is our domain. While you fought over the visible matter that makes up a tiny fraction of reality, we learned to swim in the ocean you never knew existed." The implications hit the assembled delegates like physical blows. Species that had mastered antimatter manipulation, quantum tunneling, and reality warping suddenly felt like primitive savages discovering fire. The Deep One's pressure suits began leaking as their occupants' shock disrupted their biorhythms. Ambassador Corvex uncoiled his massive serpentine form, his scales shifting to aggressive war patterns of bright red and orange. His species had conquered through superior firepower and tactical brilliance, concepts that seemed meaningless when facing an enemy that existed in dimensions they couldn't perceive. "Prove these claims, mammals," he hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air for deception, "or face the consequences of deceiving the Council." Admiral Park's expression never changed as she spoke softly into her communicator, a device that appeared to be nothing more than empty air responding to her voice. "Commander Choi Sujin, Demonstration Protocol 7. The response was immediate and terrifying. The human flagship Dark Horizon, a massive vessel that had been floating motionless in space, began to move toward a nearby asteroid belt. But instead of maneuvering around the rocky obstacles, something impossible happened. The ship began to phase through a mountain-sized asteroid, its 15-kilometer bulk passing through solid rock as if it were vapor. The asteroid showed no damage, no displacement, no sign that a massive starship had just occupied the same space. It was as if the laws of physics had simply been politely asked to step aside. But the true horror came next. As the Dark Horizon continued its demonstration, the same ship appeared to exist in 3 different locations simultaneously. One version phased through asteroids, while another maintained position near the Council station. A third manifestation appeared on the opposite side of the system, all 3 versions moving independently, yet clearly being the same vessel. The ethereal collective's gas chambers began flashing in patterns of pure panic. Their understanding of reality, built on millions of years of scientific advancement, crumbled as they watched humanity casually violate the fundamental principle that objects could only exist in one place at one time. The Saurian war computers began calculating firing solutions before giving up in electronic confusion. How do you target an enemy that exists everywhere and nowhere? Their most powerful plasma cannons, designed to crack planets, would be useless against ships that could simply choose not to interact with conventional matter. The Council watched in growing horror as humanity's supposed primitive technology made. Their greatest achievements looked like stone tools wielded by children. Dr. Yoon Seokjin stepped forward, his movements deliberate and calm despite the chaos brewing in the Council chamber. With a gesture that seemed almost casual, he activated the holographic display that would shatter the galactic order forever. The air above the Council table shimmered and transformed into a 3-dimensional map of the entire galaxy. What appeared before the stunned delegates wasn't the familiar star chart they all knew. Instead, ghostly threads of light stretched across the cosmic void like an enormous spider web. Dark matter filaments, invisible to conventional sensors but clearly mapped by human technology, connected every star system, every nebula, every corner of known space. At each intersection where these cosmic highways met, small points of soft blue light pulsed steadily. "While your civilizations have fought over planets and systems for millennia," Dr. Yoon explained, his voice carrying the weight of a revelation that would reshape galactic politics, humanity has been building infrastructure throughout the galaxy's dark matter framework. Every solar system, every planet, every space station in Council territory exists within our operational sphere. The ethereal collective's gas-filled chambers began flickering with patterns of pure terror. Their translucent forms, usually radiating calm intelligence, now writhed with agitation as they processed what the display revealed. The dark matter web they were seeing had always been there, invisible and ignored, while they built their civilization, on the tiny specks of visible matter floating within it. The Vexthari's compound eyes, capable of seeing across 17 different spectrums, had somehow missed the massive infrastructure network that surrounded their worlds. Their clicking became frantic, a sound like breaking glass as their hive mind struggled to accept that their supposed mastery of technology was built on blindness to the universe's true structure. The implications struck the assembled aliens like physical blows delivered by an invisible giant. High Counselor Thexara's crystalline structure actually cracked as she processed the revelation, hairline fractures spreading through her faceted body like lightning frozen in diamond. Her species had manipulated quantum forces for millions of years, yet they had been living inside a human-controlled network without ever knowing it. The Deep One's pressure suits began failing as their occupants' shock disrupted their biological systems. These ancient beings had explored the deepest trenches of space, mapping black holes and dancing with neutron stars. Yet they had never detected the dark matter highways that humanity traveled like invisible roads between the stars. Captain Bay. G1 gestured to tactical displays that materialized around the chamber, each one showing detailed scans of Council territories. The true scope of humanity's expansion became clear as system after system revealed human installations hidden within their dark matter frameworks. Massive structures the size of moons orbited within the gravity wells of alien homeworlds, completely undetected by the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. Our defensive perimeter encompasses 47 Council worlds, he announced with the same tone one might use to discuss the weather. The dark matter streams that flow through your home systems power our installations. You've been living inside our territory without knowing it. The holographic display zoomed in on the Saurian Empire's core worlds. Their magnificent fleet yards, capable of building dreadnoughts that could shatter continents, floated helplessly within a web of human structures that had been monitoring them for decades. Every ship launch, every military exercise, every strategic planning session had been observed by invisible watchers. The crystalline hegemony's quantum research stations, their pride and joy, were revealed to be surrounded by human facilities that dwarfed them in size and capability. The reality warping experiments they thought were cutting edge appeared primitive compared to the dark matter manipulation happening right next to them in dimensions they couldn't perceive. Ambassador Corvex rose from his seat with movements that spoke of barely controlled fury. His reptilian features twisted with rage as his mind grappled with the strategic nightmare unfolding before him. His species had built their empire on the assumption that they could see their enemies coming, that superior firepower and tactical positioning could overcome any threat. "How you claim to surround us?" he roared, his voice causing smaller delegates to cower in their environmental suits. "With what forces? I see only a handful of ships." His clawed hands gestured wildly at the viewports where the human vessels floated, serenely in space. Even accounting for their impressive size, the human fleet appeared manageable to traditional military thinking. Numbers could be overcome with superior strategy and firepower. Commander Hanjun's smile was ice-cold as she replied, her expression carrying the quiet confidence of someone holding an unbeatable hand in a cosmic poker game. "What you see is 1/10,000th of our active fleet. The rest exist in dark matter phase, invisible to your senses but very real. Every Council world has human vessels stationed within its gravity well right now." She activated another holographic display that showed ship counts scrolling upward in numbers that made no sense. Hundreds of thousands of vessels existed in dark matter phase, their positions marked by gentle blue dots scattered throughout Council space. The Saurian Empire's mighty armada of 30,000 ships suddenly seemed like a child's toy collection. Compared to humanity's hidden navy, the chamber erupted in chaos as species-specific emergency protocols activated across a dozen different civilizations simultaneously. Alarm systems shrieked in frequencies ranging from subsonic rumbles that shook the station's structure to ultrasonic screams that caused the crystalline beings to resonate like struck bells. Automated defense systems tried to activate before realizing they had no targets to engage. How do you fight an enemy that surrounds you from dimensions you can't access? The most advanced military minds in the galaxy found themselves as helpless as primitives facing forces beyond their comprehension. Emergency communication arrays lit up as desperate messages flashed toward homeworlds, warning of a threat that had already been watching them for generations. Admiral Park Minji stood motionless at the center of the chaos, her presence like a calm eye in the storm of alien panic. Emergency lights bathed her uniform in shifting, Colors as species after species activated their crisis protocols. The Vexitharis' clicking had reached a fever pitch that threatened to shatter the chamber's acoustic dampeners. The ethereal collective's gas chambers strobed with colors that had no names in any human language. Even the ancient deep ones were releasing distress pheromones that turned their pressure suits a sickly yellow. She waited. Patience was something humans had learned during their long climb from caves to stars, and now it served them well as masters of the galaxy's hidden dimensions. The Admiral's enhanced hearing could detect the frantic communications being transmitted to dozens of homeworlds, desperate warnings about humanity's impossible capabilities spreading across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. When the pandemonium finally began to subside, Admiral Park stepped forward and delivered humanity's terms with the same calm precision she'd shown throughout the crisis. Her voice cut through the remaining chatter like a blade through silk. The Galactic Council will be restructured to include humanity as a founding member with full voting rights. All territorial expansion into human-designated systems will cease immediately. Earth's right to defend its interests throughout the galaxy will be acknowledged and respected. The silence that followed was deafening. These weren't the desperate pleas of a primitive species begging for scraps from the galactic table. These were demands backed by power that made the Council's combined fleets look like toys. The holographic displays still showed human installations surrounding every major civilization, a network of invisible watchers that had been monitoring galactic politics for decades. High Counselor Thexara's cracked crystalline form struggled to process the new reality. Her species had been founding members of the Council for over 1,000,000 years, their quantum manipulation technology serving as one of the pillars of galactic civilization. Now they were being told to share power with creatures who had discovered fire only moments ago in cosmic terms. The Council fractured along species lines as ancient alliances crumbled under the weight of humanity's revelation. The intellectual, ethereal collective, their translucent forms pulsing with desperate hope, immediately began transmitting requests for technological exchange. Their collective consciousness had recognized the revolutionary implications of dark matter manipulation and craved understanding above all else. Please, their harmonic voice resonated through specialized speakers, share your knowledge with us. We offer our quantum research, our reality-bending technologies, anything you desire in exchange for understanding your dimensional sciences. But the militant Saurians had a different response. Ambassador Corvex stood with movements that spoke of barely contained violence, his battle-scarred hide gleaming under the chamber lights like polished armor. His species had built their empire through conquest and superior firepower, concepts that made negotiation with supposed inferiors unthinkable. The Saurian Empire does not negotiate with primitives, he roared, his massive form towering over the human delegation. Our grand fleet will reduce your pathetic world to cosmic dust. We have cracked planets and boiled oceans. No mammal will dictate terms to the heirs of the galaxy. His words triggered supportive hisses from other Saurian delegates scattered throughout the chamber. Their military pride demanded action, not submission to creatures they had dismissed as barely sapient only hours before. Emergency military protocols were already activating throughout Saurian space as their war machine began its terrible mobilization. Captain Nam Jisoo, monitoring the tactical displays from her position near the chamber's information hub, looked up from readings that would have terrified any sane military strategist. The Saurian Empire was preparing to launch everything they had, planet-killer weapons and reality-warping bombs included. That would be inadvisable, she warned, her tone carrying the same casual confidence that had marked all human interactions during this crisis. But you are free to make that choice. The Saurian warfleet launched within hours, their fastest mobilization in recorded history. 3,000 vessels carrying planet-killer weaponry emerged from dimensional fold space, their hulls scarred from 1,000 battles across the galaxy. Dreadnoughts capable of shattering moons led the charge, followed by carrier groups whose fighter swarms could blot out stars. Behind them came the heavy artillery platforms, weapons designed to crack the cores of worlds and turn thriving civilizations into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. The fleet's commander, War Admiral Vexcar, had personally overseen the destruction of 17 species, who had dared to resist Saurian expansion. His tactical genius was legendary, his ruthlessness absolute. As his flagship emerged from fold space at the edge of the Sol system, he fully expected to add humanity to his list of extinct civilizations. Admiral Park watched their approach from the Bridge of Dark Horizon, now visible in Earth's orbital space alongside hundreds of sister ships. The human vessels had materialized from dark matter phase like ghosts becoming solid, their massive forms dwarfing the orbital installations that humanity had built around their homeworld. Through the bridge's main viewer, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the cosmic void, seemingly defenseless except for the impossible ships that surrounded it. The planet showed no signs of panic, no desperate evacuation efforts. Cities continued to glow with peaceful light, while the most powerful military force in the galaxy approached with weapons capable of sterilizing continents. All dark matter defense platforms, active countermeasures authorized, Admiral Park commanded, her voice carrying to invisible installations scattered throughout the solar system. Minimal force protocols in effect. The Saurian dreadnoughts opened fire first, their most powerful weapons unleashing destruction that had ended civilizations. Plasma beams hot enough to melt through planetary cores struck Earth's defenders with enough energy to crack moons. The attack was precisely coordinated, designed to overwhelm any possible defense through sheer concentrated firepower. The beams passed harmlessly through the human ship's dark matter shields like light through empty space, creating no damage, no heat signature, no indication that planet-killing weapons had just struck defended targets. The Saurian computers registered successful hits, while their sensors showed no effect whatsoever. Then came the terrible response that demonstrated why humanity had remained hidden for so long. The Saurian fleet found itself trapped within invisible constructs of weaponized dark matter that materialized around their vessels like cosmic spiderwebs made of compressed reality. War Admiral Vexkar had only seconds to register the impossible readings on his instruments before his flagship began, groaning under forces that shouldn't exist. The dark matter constructs compressed their vessels beyond the breaking point of conventional physics, folding space-time around the Saurian ships like origami made from the fabric of existence itself. Dreadnoughts that had shattered planets found their hulls collapsing inward, not from external pressure but from the very dimensions they occupied, being squeezed into impossible geometries. Ships that had terrorized a dozen species were reduced to expanding particle clouds in seconds, their molecular bonds simply ceasing to function as dark matter manipulation rewrote the local laws of physics. The crews experienced a death so swift they never knew what killed them, their consciousness ending between one heartbeat and the next, as reality folded around them. The few Saurian vessels on the outer edges of the formation watched in horror, as their mighty armada became clouds of glittering dust that caught the light of Sol's star. No explosions, no dramatic death throes, just the quiet dissolution of matter returning to its component atoms. 3,000 ships and their crews simply stopped existing as coherent structures. Admiral Park's voice reached every surviving council member simultaneously across impossible distances, transmitted through dark matter networks that spanned the galaxy. Her words arrived at the crystalline hegemony's homeworld, the ethereal collective's gas giant colonies, and the deep one's abyssal stations at exactly the same moment, despite being separated by thousands of light years. We could have deployed these weapons at any location in the galaxy. Your homeworlds, your fleets, your civilians, all exist within our sphere of influence. We chose restraint. The implications of that statement rippled through galactic civilization like a shockwave. Every species suddenly understood that humanity could have eliminated them at any time, could have erased their cities, their fleets, their entire populations, with weapons that operated through dimensions they couldn't perceive or defend against. The fact that Earth still stood while the Saurian warfleet had been atomized demonstrated humanity's terrible mercy. Emergency sessions convened on 47 worlds as species that had considered themselves masters of the galaxy grappled with their new position as potential subjects of a power they had dismissed as primitive. The Vexthari's clicking harmonies took on mournful tones as their hive mind processed the reality of their situation. Even their compound eyes, capable of seeing across 17 spectrums, had been blind to the true rulers of the cosmos. 6. Months later, the reformed Galactic Council convened in humanity's newest station orbiting Luna. The structure itself was a marvel that redefined architectural possibility, its corridors and chambers existing partially in normal space and partially in dark matter dimensions. Delegates found themselves walking through areas that were simultaneously vast and intimate, where the geometry shifted based on the observer's needs. Admiral Park took her seat at the council table as Earth's permanent representative, her chair, positioned at the head of the ancient assembly that had ruled galactic politics for millions of years. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone present. Species that had dominated space for millennia now sat in positions that acknowledged humanity's supremacy, their environmental pods arranged around the human delegation like planets orbiting a star. High Counselor Thexara's crystalline form had been repaired but still bore hairline fractures that caught the light, permanent reminders of the day her understanding of reality had shattered. The ethereal collective's representatives floated in their gas-filled chambers, their translucent bodies dimmer than before as their collective consciousness struggled to adapt to their reduced status. The Saurian Empire's new ambassador, a smaller and far more diplomatic representative than the aggressive Corvex, kept his scales locked in submissive blue patterns. The Empire's remaining fleet stayed close to their homeworlds, their crews painfully aware that human observers floated invisibly within their formation at all times. The first order of business, Admiral Park announced with the same calm efficiency she had shown during the crisis, concerns mining rights in the Outer Rim territories. The assembled delegates leaned forward, eager to demonstrate their cooperation with humanity's agenda. The Outer Rim had been a source of territorial disputes for centuries, but now those conflicts seemed laughably petty compared to the larger reality of human oversight. What the other council members didn't realize, what humanity would never tell them, was that dark matter permeated not just empty space but every atom of their bodies, every electrical impulse in their brains, every breath they took. The invisible medium that carried their thoughts and sustained their lives was completely under human control, making every being in the galaxy potentially subject to humanity's influence. The age of humanity's quiet dominion had begun, built on mastery of the invisible forces that bound the universe together. While the other species debated trade agreements and territorial boundaries, humans monitored their conversations through dark matter networks that existed within the delegates' own neural pathways. Commander Lee Hyojin monitored the proceedings from the station's dark matter command center, her instruments tracking the quantum signatures of every being in the council chamber. She smiled as she watched the other species debate policies that humanity had already decided, their discussions flowing along paths that human influence subtly guided. The ethereal collective proposed new research-sharing agreements, unaware that their quantum experiments were being observed by human scientists who existed in dimensions the aliens couldn't perceive. The reformed Saurian Empire offered military cooperation treaties, not knowing that their every strategic discussion was being monitored by invisible watchers embedded in their own command structures. The galaxy belonged to whoever controlled its hidden framework, and humanity had claimed that prize while everyone else fought over the scraps they could see. As the council session continued, Admiral Park allowed herself a small smile. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it was humanity's universe now, governed by beings who had learned to swim in the dark matter ocean that other species had never known existed. The other delegates would go home thinking they had participated in reshaping galactic politics, never suspecting that every decision had been guided by minds that existed beyond their perception. Earth's children had inherited the cosmos not through conquest, but through understanding forces that remained invisible to those who still thought in terms of the mere 15% of reality they could see. The ND.